and approved a settlement agreement for the following certificated employee, number 6014, on a unanimous vote. And I will now call to order the regular meeting of the Sierra Sands Unified School District Board of Education, and we will stand and have the Pledge of Allegiance led by our student member, Regina.
Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will now observe a moment of silence. Thank you. Item number 1, adoption of the agenda.
No changes.
If there are no changes, we'll stand adopted as presented. We move to item 2, approval of the minutes of the regular and special meetings of April 20th, 2023. Any changes? If there are no changes, they will stand as submitted. And we move to programs and presentations. And this is great to see all of you here this evening. It's an exciting time of year for all of us in many ways, and a time when we can recognize a lot of wonderful things and some great opportunities for people as well. We will start by a presentation to Regina Safey, who is our student board member, and thank her for her services for the 22-23 school year. Regina, would you like to meet us down at the base there? Diane, did I give you the certificate? Did I give you the certificate with those ones that signed? Okay, thank you. Microphone on. We want to thank Regina for her service to the school district, to Burroughs High School, and we're going to present her with her name so she'll know what it is. And we also want to acknowledge the excellence that Regina has maintained out throughout the year, not just in her school board membership, but in athletics as well as scholarship in her work. So Regina, congratulations, and thank you very much for your work and your service. This now brings us to the presentation of the annual Sierra Sands Rose Awards in recognition of outstanding parent and community volunteers. Mr. Auld.
President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Ostash, staff, and community. We are fortunate to live in a community where parents and community members take a vital interest in the lives of their children, whether it is in their activities at home or at school. Many go above and beyond what is necessary to make a difference to the children of the district. In an effort to recognize and highlight the special individuals who volunteer their services to our students and schools, the Sierra Sands Unified School District has established the Sierra Sands Rose Award. This award gives the district the ability to annually honor those volunteers who generously dedicate time and energy to the success of our students. So each site has a Rose Award winner. I'd like to invite President Ferris back down to the podium with Dr. Ostash. And I'm going to call forward each principal, if they're here, to read a narrative about their choice. And if they aren't here, I have the narrative as well. So we'd like to start with Fowler Elementary School. Ms. Brown.
Fowler has selected Rebecca McCourt for our Rose Award winner. Rebecca McCourt has been a crucial part of Fowler as a volunteer for many years. She has been in many classrooms volunteering in any way that she is needed. She is our current PTO president. We would like to thank her for all the amazing luncheons she hosted and prepped for. Thank you for being a true asset to Fowler. you're in front. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to invite Mrs. Bergens up from Gateway Elementary School.
The recipient of this year's Rose Award for Gateway Elementary is James Maurer. Mr. Maurer has been a constant volunteer at Gateway since 2013. He has helped out with events such as Junior Olympics, the book fair, and his most beloved role of playing Cat in the Hat every year for Dr. Seuss Day. Mr. Maurer will put on the Cat in the Hat costume and parade through the school reading books to each class, creating an infectious and joyful energy. This 9-year-old tradition has become one of the events that students and staff look forward to every year. Mr. Maurer has spent his time at Gateway ensuring the joy and safety of our students. Thank you so much for your dedication to our school. We appreciate you and can't thank you enough. Thank you, Mr. Maurer.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to invite up Mrs. Eubank, Inyakern Elementary School.
I am pleased to introduce Mrs. Elizabeth Ward as Inyakern Elementary's Rose Award recipient. Mrs. Ward is an active member of our parent community and can be seen volunteering for a wide variety of activities throughout our school. She has spent countless hours working in our library and computer lab, including shelving books and working at the book fairs. Besides being a volunteer extraordinaire, she serves as a member of the PTO, helps to organize events such as our Fall Festival and our annual Track and Field Day, and she is an active member of our School Site Council. We can always count on her to answer our call for assistance. Mrs. Ward is a welcome volunteer on our campus, and we are so very fortunate to have her. We're so fortunate to have her is that I hired her. So next year, someone else will win the Rose Award. So Mrs. Ward, awesome job.
Next, from Los Flores Elementary School, Mrs. Tate.
Los Flores' Rose Award winner is Ashley Sobieski. Ashley has been an essential member of the PTO for many years and is currently the president. She is always smiling when she is on campus and making deliveries into selling grams and sorting fundraising items for donations, or distributing, sorry. She works hard putting together birthday bags and selling grams for holidays to boost morale. Everyone is welcomed by Ashley when she sees them, whether it be a staff member or families of students. She is an incredibly important person at Los Flores who helps make our school a brighter and more inviting place.
From Pierce Elementary School, Mrs. Castro.
Pierce Elementary's Rose Award winner is Christina McGregor. Christina McGregor is Pierce's right hand. She is a dedicated educational partner. She goes above and beyond to advocate for all students. The amount of time and effort put into all the fundraising needs at Pierce is mind-blowing. Many of our field trips and extracurricular activities wouldn't be possible without the leadership and guidance from Christina. We truly appreciate her and value her commitment to Pierce. Thank you to her and her dedication and support to our school. Christina, you're a rock star, and we're sad to see you go for teaching. You guys hired her too.
From Richmond Elementary School, Mr. Yancey.
Good evening. Richmond is honored to present this year's Rose Award to Arnika Hopkins. Arnika has served on our PTO for several years and is a current co-president of our PTO for this school year. She helps lead this organization in numerous fundraising projects and staff support events for our whole school. She volunteers in one of our kindergarten classrooms on a daily basis to help assist our staff and students. She does a great job supporting our kindergartners both in their classroom and at their recesses. Arnika is also one of our 5th grade basketball coaches and spends numerous hours after school helping with this important program. She not only helps the students learn basketball skills, but also helps them learn sportsmanship and kindness. Arnika is always upbeat and positive and very encouraging about everything she is involved in. She is not one to seek praise for her ideas or service. She does it just for the love of helping others. I'm incredibly grateful for all the work she has done for our kindergartners, PTO, and basketball team, and for our school this year. We're extremely grateful for the tremendous dedication that Arnika has shown to Richmond students and are proud to recognize her many contributions with the presentation of the Rose Award as the Richmond Elementary School Volunteer of the Year.
From James Monroe Middle School, Mrs. Self.
This year, James Monroe Middle School has focused on bringing more opportunities for students to explore their passions and leadership outside the classroom. One of the ways we were able to do so this year was with the extraordinary volunteer work of Ms. Rhonda Hill. Ms. Hill has worked for Sierra Sands as an elementary teacher for 26 years. This year, she moved over to Monroe to help volunteer with our cheer team. So she brought time, energy, and her expertise to support our new cheer team. She coached and choreographed this team to a first-place finish in the Knott's Berry Farm Championship competition, as well as helping these girls find their voices to cheer for our teams in the basketball. Ms. Rhonda Hill. She has a fan set.
From Murray Middle School, Mr. Cosner.
It is a great honor and privilege that Murray Middle School bestows upon Miss Tammy Hill the Rose Award for the recognition of her family's great work as a parent volunteer. She has freely given of her kindness and uncountable hours to the students of Murray. She and her husband have co-president for several years at Murray Middle School, long before my tenure, and she runs the student store regularly on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Students are able to get PE clothes, Murray swag, and all sorts of fun stuff. She helps coordinate volunteers for the dances and shows up herself regularly. Her presence has lightened the load on educators, perhaps best seen by the bi-monthly lunches from their perspective, as well as the wonderful week of teacher appreciation that she provided, beautiful rainbow treasures as far as the eye could see. Our joy in having had her is only matched by the sorrow as they move on. Their youngest child is graduating. I tried to hold her back. But we are excited for the next adventures that they have in their family. Thank you for all that you've given, and I know you'll continue to give to bring joys you've brought to our school elsewhere. Thank you, Tammy Hill.
And from Burroughs High School, Mrs. Cope.
Hello, good evening. I am pleased to recognize Mr. Bruce Auld as the Burroughs High School Rose Award recipient. Bruce has dedicated his time, energy, and hard work to enhance the grounds of the BHS campus. He started his work around the former administration building years ago. He spent numerous hours planting and watering the plants in the planter outside of the administration building and the surrounding area. Bruce grows the plants from seedlings at his house, and when he determines they are ready for transplanting, he plants them at BHS. Burroughs now has pomegranate bushes, palm trees, plum trees, and flowers on the north end of campus. When the new administration building was built in 2018, the life skills students took over tending to the original plants, and Bruce moved his efforts to the new office. Unfortunately, the DoD grant to modernize the campus, which included the new administration building, did not include landscaping. Therefore, BHS doesn't have a watering system in the area around the new office. Bruce comes daily to tend to the plants. He waters, adds new plants, and trims the existing plants. When Bruce goes on vacation, he hires someone to fill in for him, usually one of his grandchildren. Bruce loves to talk about the plants. The newest addition to the front is a Chinese fringe tree. He special ordered it and grew it from just a twig. After he planted it, he told the BHS administration to watch it daily because it was going to produce white flowers. Sure enough, the white flowers blossomed that week. We are so grateful for Bruce and his commitment, hard work, and effort to help beautify the BHS campus.
So I know Bruce, and Bruce is currently helping me in Rohnert Park, moving my daughter home from her junior year of college, so he couldn't be here this evening. So
since people call you Bruce anyway,
right. Yeah. Appreciate it.
So the next item on the agenda is the presentation of service awards to district retirees. I'm getting in my steps.
The talents and contributions of district employees are the key to the success of the students of the Sierra Sands Unified School District. Near the end of each school year, the Board of Education takes time to recognize the service and dedication of those employees who have retired during the current year or will be retiring at the end of the current school year. This year, there are 5 certificated and 3 classified employees who will be recognized for their distinguished and dedicated service to the district. I'd like to call them up one at a time now to be recognized by Mr. Ferris and Dr. Ostash. We'll start with our certificated retirees. I will read from the list their most recent assignment. Many of them have had several assignments, and their dates of service. Independent study teacher at Mesquite High School, Gail Antonson, 1990 to 2023. Principal, Mesquite High School, Joanne McClellan, 2000 to 2023.
We're doing it different than last year. Hold on. We had them all.
Kindergarten teacher, Richmond Elementary School, Tammy Pyatt, 1997 to 2022. District TOSA for Curriculum and Instruction, Angie Pritchard, 1997 to 2023.
Look at that smile.
Yeah, you're standing for just a quick picture, and then we'll call you all back up later.
Oh, nifty.
TKK teacher from Richmond Elementary School, Kimberly Van Neville, 1996 to 2023. So this makes it official. Human Resources Technician, District Office, Carol Brewster, 2008 to 2023. The paraprofessional one from Fowler, Coach Manny Fierro, 2008 to 2023. And finally, paraprofessional student supervisor, Burroughs High School, Cheryl Polk, 1999 to 2022. I believe we want to have a picture with all of the retirees. Is that correct? Yeah. So right up here in the front, if you could come back. Okay, we got it. Yeah. As soon as we finish this photo op, we're going to back up and get the Rose Award winners up for their picture. So, but this is retirees. One more hand for our retirees. And now if we could have the Rose Award winners come up for a group Photoshop, or photo op, I should say. Might have to Photoshop somebody back in if they left. Hang on, hang on. Wait for Mrs. Hill.
We will now take a few moments to meet in the lobby.
Whoop.
Oops.
3.4.
I guess I didn't watch closely enough, did I?
3.4.
3.4 is Sierra San Service Year Pins. I'm sorry.
The academic mission of our district depends on the dedication of employees who choose to make their careers here. In order to show our deep appreciation to these employees, it was decided to implement a service award pin ceremony to be held every year at the May school board meeting. This service award pin represents only a small sense of the gratitude we feel for their loyalty to the district through their years worked here. And we do this in 5-year increments, and so I will start with those employees who are earning their 5-year service pin, and we'll have you come up to the front for a photo op. Melanie Ariata, Andrea Benson, Bernadette Brunstead, Gina Campbell Pruitt, Maria Coit, Felicia Field, Alice Granger, Gina Greger, John Hill, Colleen Howell, Brittany Kaufman, Jillian Cuxaro, Mark Laffin, Jennifer Madsen, Nathan Merrill, Tracy Rowland, Miranda Ryan, Michelle Seymour, Pam Smith, Sandra Smith, and Sam Thompson. These are our 5-year Service Pin Award winners. Let's give them a round of applause. Okay, the next group will be the 10-year service pins. Derek Aiken, Catherine Benson, Joyce Booth, Elenita Cannanoy, Sorrel Edens, Susan Ford, Lee Garcia, Christine Gamitro, Scott Lee, Christina Miller, Miley Maurer, Sylvia Payanis, Sarah Phillips, Deborah Ruth, Alina Tamale Woods, Lori Verkel, Kiana Williams, Kevin Wythe, and Danny Young. These are our 10-year winners. All right. Receiving their 15-year service pins, Rachel Dorfmeister, Charlotte Becker, Carol Brewster, Carrie DeYoung, Cynthia Fox, Amber Garfield, Tina Halterman, Julie Marshall, Dorothy McGrath, Bobby Rohrlich, and Dana Tamaris. Receiving the 20 years of service pin, Michelle Brashaud, Randy Hanna, Jenny Barcinas, Vicky Peach, and Russ Smith. Receiving their 25 years of service pin, Marcia Dittler, Judith Dwyer, Brandy Kean, Gwen Lakes, Jim Ledbetter, William Novascone Jr., and Joan Worley. Receiving their 30 years of service pin, Doug Hayes, Susan Johnson, Kimberly St. George, Jennifer Williams, and Brian Williams. And last but not least, we have one more award winner. This pin should get you free meals in every restaurant you go to. 35 years of service to the district, Margaret Bergens.
Now we will have a brief reception in the lobby. Our hosts, the city, have asked that we please be respectful of the chambers and not bring cake and refreshments back in after the reception. Keep them in the lobby. Thank you so much. Enjoy. Congratulations to all. And thank you.
Item 5, no public hearings. We'll move on to item 6, reports and communications. 6.1, student members report. Got it.
Murray Middle School. More than 150 students from Murray Monroe were invited to the James Monroe site and had the chance to work with coaches from the LA Rams in a skills clinic. BHS players helped facilitate drills, and the middle school students even received hats and a day filled with unforgettable experiences to remember the event by. Thank you to all the people who made that amazing event possible. Last week, band and orchestra completed their final performance, combining several groups for a culminating performance of the Dragon Dance. We are excited to have helped some students start their musical careers while others prepare to bring their expertise to the high school. In the world of athletics, Elysia Pepper not only completed first in the Junior Olympics locally for the discus, but she continued improving her personal record twice more. She took third and finally placed in the top 10 for 6 counties during the multi-county event in Bakersfield on May 6th. Murray would like to thank PTSO for the wonderful week of appreciation shown to teachers and staff. They provided lunch and a week of various tokens from keychains to coffee. Speaking of recognition, the final prizes in the PBIS store include a drum set donated by Mr. Smith and tickets for a student and a friend to attend the end of the year spirit party. The spirit party is tomorrow and is held every year to recognize the grade level with the most spirit points. Students are excited to put state testing behind them as we pass the 95% completion mark. They finished ASB speeches and voting and have begun to wrap up culminating projects and final assessments during these last few days of school. Next week, 8th graders get to go to the movies, practice for their promotion, and on the final day of school, they get to walk the stage during the middle school counterpart to their graduation to come. Go Mustangs. James Monroe Middle School. 5 days remaining in this school year, and the Tigers will be moving up. The 8th graders are ready to be freshmen, the 7th graders are ready to be big fish, and the 6th graders are ready to no longer be the little fish. A new group of little fish visited James Monroe last week. Our web leaders gave them a tour. They have some cookies and milk, and then back to the elementary until August. In the meantime, we will be busy right up until the last day of school. End of year activities for each grade level and promotion from the 8th graders have all been planned and prepped. We celebrated our staff last week with donations from parents and treats from our BSU and administration. We are so lucky to have amazing teachers and support staff at Monroe. We hate to lose those staff members that are moving on. As we button up this year, we are already planning for next year. We have some great new members joining us, but first, a few weeks of rest, recovery, and relaxation to recharge our batteries. Happy summer break from James Monroe. Mesquite High School. Our biggest news is that we now have 37 graduates and expect at least 8 more by the end of the year. This is the largest senior class Mesquite has had in quite some time. This is such a rewarding time of year for our students, teachers, and families. ASB continues to be busy as we wrap up the year. ASB is preparing for the end of the year barbecue and yearbook signing party on Monday, May 22nd. Awards ceremony and graduation practice will be on May 24th. Finally, we want to invite all of you to our graduation ceremony on May 25th at 6:30 p.m. at Mesquite. Sherman E. Burroughs High School. It is an exciting time at Burroughs. There are many events packed in the last few weeks of the school year. Students nominated by the teachers for outstanding academic achievement were recognized at an exemplary achievement luncheon last week. On May, many seniors received scholarships from generous community organizations at the senior award ceremony. The yearbook extravaganza happened tonight, the senior trip to the Oasis Pool on base is tomorrow, and finally the event we're all looking forward to, graduation, will take place on Friday, May 26th, beginning at 8 p.m. Burroughs students took part in the popular Teacher Lookalike Day on the 10th to celebrate Teacher and Staff Appreciation Week. In addition, there was a final Spirit Week from the 15th through the 18th. Spirit days include Beat the Heat, where students wore hats and sunglasses, College/Career Day, socks, Crocs, and Birkenstocks, and Soccer Mom versus Barbecue Dad. AP tests began on May 1st and continued through the 12th. Key Club made goodie bags for the AP students as they wish everyone good luck on their exams. Final exams for the entire school will take place next week. At the World Stride Music Festival on April 28th, the Burroughs Orchestra received a gold star rating, choir received a silver rating, symphonic band received a silver rating, and cadet band received a bronze rating. The whole music program received the Spirit Award for embodying the spirit of cooperation in music making. Earlier this week, the music groups performed their end-of-the-year concerts. There was also an impressive 2023 BHS Student Art Show from May 9th to the 11th in the multi-use room. Congratulations to the spring sports, golf, boys tennis, baseball, softball, track, and swimming for a successful season. 2 golfers finished in 13th and 15th place in the league. The boys tennis team are MRL League champions and competed in both individual and team playoffs. 4 male swim athletes qualified for CIF and 1 competed in CIF finals. 19 track athletes also qualified for CIF prelims, including some school record breakers. Thank you to everyone for their efforts this school year. It was a wonderful time full of valuable experiences, and we hope everyone has a great summer.
Thank you, Gina. Good luck on your final exams next week, and once again, we appreciate your service this school year. We'll move on to item 6.2, reports from members of the board. Any reports? Mr. Rockwell?
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to go out to the event with the Rams, was it last week? And want to thank Mr. Delbick, who appeared to be the big spearhead for that, at least from what I could see. But it was great. The kids looked like they were having a blast, and it's a shame that Mr. Ferris isn't here because I wanted to compliment him on his running style. There was a race out there between him and somebody else. I couldn't keep an eye on who the other guy was because I guess Bill was running too fast. So, but Mr. Delbick, thanks for putting the Rams thing together. Also, Mr. Ferris, he's kind of nuts. He wanted to be here for the celebratory stuff earlier this evening, but he has a California School Board Association board meeting tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock in Sacramento. So he left here after a piece of cake and he's driving to Sacramento now. So that's why he's not here. And then I'll be a part of the delegate assembly this weekend, so I'll run up there tomorrow, and hopefully we'll have some good things to bring back when we have our next one of these next month. So thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Rockwell. Move on to 6.3, Superintendent Report, Dr. Ostash.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Just a few announcements this evening as the most important part we just did, the celebration of our great people. So a few reports. Our attendance report, month 8 enrollment is 5,026. Last year this time was 4,995, so we still are up 31 students this time over last year this time. Just like the celebration we had this evening, we have lots of celebrations to come. Starting tomorrow, we have our adult school graduation ceremony at 6 o'clock p.m. at the Parker Performing Arts Center at Burroughs High School. We have our Murray and Monroe promotion ceremonies next week on Thursday at the Kerr-McGee Center, and Mesquite High School graduation next Thursday evening at Mesquite High School. And Burroughs High School has its graduation next Friday evening at 8 o'clock p.m. at the Burroughs Stadium. Earlier this week, I attended, and Mr. Ferris and I both attended the Burroughs High School Senior Awards Assembly. Mrs. Cope and her staff did a great job awarding dozens of, bless you, dozens of Burroughs High School seniors who have earned just a multitude of local, regional, and state scholarships, including, appointments to the Naval Academy, and just tremendous achievements by our students throughout the district. It's a very exciting time of year. Board members, you have a document that has been shared with you if you're familiar with Google Docs. If not, we can get you a Word document, but we have a 2-page list of end-of-year activities, and you're welcome to attend anything you would like. Love to see you there whenever you can, wherever you can. Just a couple other announcements. I want to compliment Sue LeBlanc. I don't think she's here this evening, but Pam Smith, too, I want to compliment. They all work together. And so Sue LeBlanc and her team recently submitted a kitchen infrastructure and training grant proposal that the acronym is KIT. It was a KIT grant proposal. They received $500,000 for Sierra Sands. The KIT funding allocations provide in our case, $500,000 worth of resources for kitchen infrastructure upgrades, equipment, food service staff training, as well as it also provides funds to support additional staff work and prep for related to the implementation of universal meals. And also there's an emphasis on scratch cooking and implementing more and more basically homemade type meals into our kitchens and our cafeterias. And they're just doing a fantastic job in our nutritional services throughout the district, and appreciate all their work. Last update, I wanted to compliment our Chief Technology Officer, Donnie Morrison, and his team in the technology department. We've talked a lot about our private LTE network over the last couple of years, and we've been scaling our rollout of that private LTE network for student and staff internet connectivity from their home. And we kind of scaled it out initially based upon levels of need, also student levels, secondary students needing that more than say kindergarten students. But I want to say that in the last week or so, we've actually reached the final stage of that scaled rollout. We're actually in our full implementation stage. This means that any student in the district attending any of our schools who needs Wi-Fi internet connectivity can get that from us. And in the vast majority of cases, we can accommodate that connectivity through our private LTE valley-wide network. There are certain micro spots in the valley where the PLTE network doesn't necessarily reach. And so in those cases, we have mobile, like MiFi hotspot devices that we can issue to students in need. But we are now in our full implementation of the private LTE network. It's a phenomenal effort. And I really do want to compliment Mr. Morrison and his team for what I consider a major success for us. And so this asset is now, as I said, fully implemented, and now will carry us forward in the next several decades in making sure that no students in our district, and we have over 5,000 of them, will be without internet connection at home. So there will be no technology gap for our students, and that's a really neat thing for us to have accomplished. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Scott. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ostash. We'll move on to item 6.4, report to the Board of Trustees by the Desert Area Teachers Association. Ms. Poole?
Good evening. Good evening, Community Teachers Board. I think I was going over writing some notes. I think the end of the school year is approaching. I'm not positive. I'm not keeping track. That's a lie. So we have this week and next. Tomorrow's our last Friday of the school year, and I think we're all pretty excited about that. One of the things I like about teaching is the cyclical nature, that we get a break, and it's nice because you can have an end. And I don't understand how other people have jobs. Like, when do you evaluate what you've done? When do you get a break? So it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy the breaks as well. And I thought that at the end of the school year, I would just go through my my list, my standard songs that I've been singing for the last year. So I thought I'd run down them quickly and then wish everybody a lovely and relaxing break. I just want to say, as we get in here with the last couple weeks and we're seeing what our kids have accomplished and reevaluating what we've done, could we have done this better? Could things have gone more smoothly? Because every teacher does that, and it's at the end of the year when we're really focused on how can we do better next year. And I think that would be, it would be great if teachers had that option of sticking around on campus and getting all this stuff while it's fresh in our heads, and not always on our own time. Too much testing, obviously. If you don't know that, you haven't heard me at all. I think our kids need to be a little more focused on being kids. Nothing wrong with having testing. I do find it problematic when we spend all our time testing and not enough time teaching and getting to know kids. I don't think we have enough recognition of teachers as experts. We're the ones in the classroom day after day after day, and I don't think
we're given enough credit for that on a daily basis. I think certainly, you know, we're recognized, volunteers are recognized, and we're appreciated, but I don't think just when decisions are made, I don't think our viewpoint is always taken into account. And my new favorite is adjunct duty. Taking tickets at a game, being a crossing guard, all the time that we spend to get our degree, and a lot of us go beyond our undergrad, and we do bits and we have to clear it, and we put in a lot of time making ourselves better, and then we're told you're going to take tickets at a basketball game. That being said, I think we're all really happy that we had like a normal year this year, and maybe next year we won't even be thinking about that because we'll be so accustomed to just being back on school the way we like. I won't say anymore because I don't want to jinx it. Going to miss you next year, Dr. Ostash. It's been great having you around for a few years. And I hope everyone has a chance to relax. And if you go to France, don't tell me because I'm not able to go this year.
Thank you, Ms. Spill. Move on to item 6.5, a report to the Board of Trustees by the California School Employees Association.
Hello, school board, president, board, oh, he's not here anymore, just kidding. Board members, superintendent Dr. Ostash, colleagues, and community. Well, I'm happy to report we have started on negotiations, which has been going fairly well. We have a TA that the chapter will be voting on next week. Progress is being made on our pay scale, which we're excited about. We're not where it should be, but definitely making progress. Each May, California salutes the important contributions of classified school employees during Classified School Employees Week, which will be coming up next week. This year, we are celebrating the theme Classified Professionals, Indispensable, Inspiring, and Invincible. I would also like to add, we are essential. Classified employees have earned respect as educators and partners in the education community. More importantly, they have become recognized as the essential frontline workers who keep our schools up and running while making a difference in the lives of the students they serve. Custodial and maintenance staff keep our campuses clean and safe. Bus drivers and transportation staff get students to school safely. Office staff meet the needs of students, parents, and administrators. Child nutrition workers keep students fed and ready to learn. Technical staff keep everyone connected and online. Paraeducators support students and help them overcome new challenges. Library specialists and computer paras provide accessible resources and safe spaces to learn for our students. State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tony Thurmond, stated that meeting students' basic needs as well as their social and emotional needs has been more important than ever. Thankfully, our classified staff have made heroic efforts to step up and support California students so they can continue to learn. Hopefully, the district will see the difference that classified employees make on a daily basis and continue to make strides at providing better pay for our indispensable, inspiring, invincible, and essential classified staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Sylvia. Move on to item 6.6, communications from the public. The board will provide time during the discussion of each agenda item for members of the public to comment. At this time, members of the public may address the board on an item not on the agenda. Comments should relate to items of public interest within the board's jurisdiction. The law prohibits the board from taking action on items not on the agenda. If appropriate, your comments will be referred to staff for response. When addressing the board, please state your name at the podium and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. In accordance with the board bylaws, the board will limit the total time for public input to 30 minutes. Those wishing to address the board beyond the 30-minute time limit may do so at the end of the scheduled meeting agenda. We'll open up public comment at 8:11.
Good evening, I'm back again. Marie Andrews, Sierra Sands. First, I'd like to thank the board, and I'd like to thank for the pizza and being appreciated for Drivers Appreciation Week. It was a few days late, but that's okay. We have been so harassed and with everything going on. And I want to say that I was half wrong and half right about the electric bus. I understand that the charging stations on the base are merely to keep the buses topped off enough so that the mechanics can use it, and that theoretically, the $1 million chargers that are behind Albertsons are gonna keep the buses fully charged, so we'll see. One of the things I want to talk about is the lack of drivers still. We have 5 drivers, we just got one, he passed all the tests, there's 2 in training. However, that one is only replacing the one that quit. 3 of us are planning on retiring in the very near future, and so these other 2 drivers, you're still gonna be short. Recently, I had an incident on the bus that you might have all heard about. First of all, we're running really late, as you know. We're doing 3 and 4 runs a day. I have 58 hours of overtime this month, and one of the other drivers has 80 hours of overtime. That's basically 2 weeks' worth of work that we're putting in during a 4-week period. I was about an hour and a half late getting into Burroughs. The kids were getting madder and madder, and they were hot. And I had kindergartners on board that I had to pick up at Fowler to bring over. And the Fowler children were little kids, and they were sitting in the front seat, and got the high school kids on, and they started throwing corn nuts and bouncing them off and hitting the little kids. So I pulled over. I said, "That's it, stop." "No, you can't, what are you telling us?" That type of thing. I'm amazed at the 4-letter words and racial inserts that just pop out of their mouths with not even a thought of what's coming out of their mouths. It just trips right off their tongue. And it got into a point where they're yelling at the kids in the front, the kids in the front are yelling at the back. I said, "Give me your names." They wouldn't give them to me. I said, "I'm going back to the school." Then the whole bus erupted. And at that point, I called on the radio and I asked for the police. Unfortunately, I was on the other side of mayhem. The police said, "You're out of our area. You need the sheriff." Sheriff's department said, "Sorry, we don't have anybody to come out and help you. So you need to call and get the administrators out there." So first of all, also, Melanie and Mrs. Robinson do an incredible job. I don't know how they manage to keep everything running the way they do. Ellen is not only doing her job, she's driving the buses, she's training. She's there from the sun comes up in the morning till way after the sun goes down, and so is Melanie. And there's a poem about we the willing are doing so much with so little that we can now do the impossible with nothing. And that's what it's turning out. Personally, I don't think you're ever going to have a fully staffed group of drivers. I think you really need to start looking at bicycle paths and ways to get the kids in to school other than bicycles. Schools were established to create a workforce, an educated workforce. And when I was in school, there used to be a man called Mr. Estes. And what he would do is if you even looked like you were being disrespectful, he'd pick you up and throw you in a trash dumpster, and we didn't have the problems then. And I don't know what you can do now about it, but it's gotten out of hand, and I think you need to have, like what the military does is a stop, and you reset everything, and you say, you're gonna dress this way, you're gonna act this way. If you use these types of language, you're gonna be, your parents are gonna have to come in and sit with you through the classes, or else we're gonna all be joining hands and singing Kumbaya in the parking lot. There's gotta be some way of starting this all over again. I have girls on my bus from the high school that are wearing bras. That's all they got on. They got a sweatshirt and they got a zipper. And they're wearing just plain old bras and short skirts.
Our 3-minute timer's
Okay.
not working, but
Anyway,
we started at
that's it.
11, so we've gotten 4 minutes in.
Oh,
so-
I was
just
thinking I
letting you
still
know
had
that we're-
54 to go. Okay. Anyway, that's all. I just need to do a restart. But thank you all, and it's been a pleasure being here, and it's a great school district otherwise. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that to our attention. Seeing no other takers, we'll go ahead and close public comment at 8:15. We'll move on to item 7.1, adoption of resolution number 35-2223, approval of college and career access pathways partnership agreement regarding dual enrollment between the Kern Community College District and Sierra Sands Unified School District. Dr. Stafka.
Good evening, Vice President Scott, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Ostash, staff, and community. College and career readiness is the cornerstone of the Common Core standards. Research has shown that dual enrollment courses can be used effectively to promote post-secondary education and success, expand the rigor and breadth of the high school curriculum, and provide access to challenging college preparatory curriculum to students enrolled in high school. Dual enrollment courses provide students with the opportunity to receive both college and high school credit, experience the college environment, explore college and career fields, and eliminate duplication of coursework. Sierra Sands Unified School District and Saracoso Community College have had a longstanding partnership in creating college and career opportunities for students in a variety of capacities. With the inclusion of the college credit courses or dual enrollment in the California School Dashboard's College and Career Indicator, or CCI, it is critical to continue the partnership with Saracoso Community College to further develop and implement dual enrollment courses. Prior partnerships include a Memorandum of Understanding regarding dual enrollment with Saracoso for a 5-year term, July 1, 2019 through June 30, 2024, which is approved by the board in May 2019. The College and Career Access Pathways, or CCAP partnership with Kern Community College District would replace the current MOU regarding dual enrollment to expand dual enrollment opportunities for Sierra Sands Unified School District high school students effective July 1, 2023, and continue in effect until June 30, 2026, or until duly modified or terminated. A required certification is adopting a resolution approving the CCAP agreement per California Education Code 76004 at an open public meeting of the governing board. Per the agreement, if a dual enrollment course instructor is an employee of the Sierra Sands Unified School District, KCCD shall reimburse the district in an amount equal to at least 25% of the cost to the district for employing the instructor during the time the course is in session. For example, if the instructor's normal load is 5 class periods plus a prep period, then KCCD shall reimburse the district in an amount equal to 25% of 1/6 of the daily compensation paid by the district to the instructor for each day the college course is taught. The amount to be paid by KCCD to the district for each section that is active through the end of the term shall be specified in the course agreement. Reimbursements will be attributed to the district's general fund. It is recommended that the board adopt Resolution 35-2223 and the College and Career Access Pathways Partnership Agreement regarding dual enrollment between the Kern Community College District and Sierra Sands Unified School District as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Rockwell?
Just glad we're doing this. I mean, the more we can build our capacity and connection with the college is good for everybody. So thanks for keeping this going.
My
Thank you,
pleasure.
Mr. Rockwell. Any questions or comments from staff or community? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Move on to 7.2, approval of the annual budget plan and the annual service plan for the 23-24 school year for Sierra Sands SELPA. Mr. Delbick.
Mr. Scott, members of the board, Dr. Ostash, community. I'm here to do, this first item is approval of our annual budget plan and annual service plan for the 23-24 school year for Sierra Sands SELPA. This is the second reading of it. So I'll just go through it and you guys can tell me how far you want me to go. Assembly Bill 602 requires special education local plan SELPAs to submit an annual budget plan and an annual service plan that are adopted by the local Board of Education as required in Ed Code 56205. Together, these plans must identify expected expenditures and include a description of services, the physical location of services, and must demonstrate that all individuals with exceptional needs have access to services and instruction appropriate to meet their needs as specified in their IEP. According to the governance and policy-making process established within the Sierra Sands SELPA local plan for special education, the completion of the process will be documented by evidence that a public hearing was held before the adoption of the annual budget plan and the annual service plan. The public hearing was held on April 20th, 2023 at 7 p.m. at the regular board meeting of Sierra Sands School District, Board of Education, Ridgecrest City Council Chambers, 100 West California Avenue, Ridgecrest, California. The special education services provided, financial implications, the special education services provided by Sierra Sands SELPA are supported through a combination of both categorical special education state and federal funding, the expenditure of which is documented in these plans. Superintendent's recommendation is recommended that the board adopt the SELPA budget plan and annual service plan as presented.
Move recommended action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Rockwell?
Yeah, so looking through the paperwork, it looks like we get about $6.5 million in revenue earmarked for special education purposes from the state and the Fed. And then our budget that we lay out that we intend to and need to expend is about $16-ish million, leaving a gap of about $9.5 million, which is supported, used out of our general fund, I guess, to provide those services. And I know that's a fact of life and the reality, but I think it's important for the public to understand the cost of special education. You know, when you have sometimes single students that consume hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, which is an order of magnitude more than the general population. We're in a really hard place. I think that, you know, the federal government has been funding their piece of special education at about 25% or less than what they are supposed to be. Is that about roughly the number? So there's, you know, bottom line is it takes away from the general population a significant amount of money that isn't there to support, you know, the broader community. So it's again, not a criticism of this item or your efforts, but it's a hard fact of life that I think people need to understand when we try to educate 5,000 students, not just 750. So.
Yeah, and I certainly would address that. And, you know, IDA was passed in 1975, which is our federally individual disabilities educational act, and it is funded much less than 25%. It's funded about 7 or 8% that it should be fully funded. The state does come in with some, about 36%. I mean, these are funds that students need absolutely for medical needs or other, and these are our staff costs to do those classes. So, yeah, I think Dr. Ostash and Mr. Ferris were in DC just a little while ago, and you know, Dr. Ostash can comment on that, advocating for, I think there is a movement right now, obviously our SELPA movement is very involved, to have the federal government fund IDA, right? So it's not, it used to be called an encroachment, which is not, because those students are general ed students that need access to, so they have services to access their curriculum, whether it's a medical need, or orthopedic impairment, or whatever the need may be. So Dave, do you want to kind of hit on that?
I think you pretty well covered it, but you're correct that Mr. Ferris and I went back to the what is called the Coast to Coast event, the second annual, and we advocated for about 8 different line items. The first one of which, and the biggest priority, was exactly that: to fully fund the IDEA, which I believe is actually written in law for 40%. Mm-hmm. And so currently, all school districts receive about 8 or 9% of its apportionment from the Fed, but it's actually not being fully funded. Just like we experienced with the NAFIS, you know, the impact aid funding. In law, it's written that we would be receive a certain amount of money, and we only receive a percentage of that. So it is, you know, everything else you said, I wouldn't repeat, but that was well stated.
Any further questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from staff or community? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Move on to item 7.3, approval of extension of contract with Donald Grist, licensed educational psychologist. Mr. Delbeck.
Yeah, background information. According to state and federal laws and regulations, school districts are required to assess students who have been referred for special education services in the areas related to the suspected disability. Assessments must be administered by trained and knowledgeable personnel. A student must be assessed when first referred for a suspected disability, and then considered for reassessment at least once every 3 years after qualifying for special education. When a consent for an assessment plan is signed by the parent or guardian, the district has 60 days in which to complete the assessment and hold an IEP team meeting to discuss the student's eligibility. The current needs of this district's special education department require 4 full-time educational psychologists in order to meet the compliance timelines. Current considerations. The district currently does not have any on-site psychologists. The district has an ongoing advertisement on School Join or Ed Join for a school psychologist. While there have been a few viable applicants, they are either not willing to relocate or have received higher paying offers elsewhere. The district would like to contract with Donald Grease. He's a licensed educational psychologist to complete 40 in-person psychoeducational evaluations and provide consultative services as needed for Sierra Sands for the balance of the 22-23 school year. The estimate total cost for the psychoeducation evaluations and consultation services is $100,000 and will be funded through the special education budget. It is recommended that the board approve the contract with Donald Grease, licensed educational psychologist, for the 22-23 school year.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I just noticed on my paper it says 23-24, and on the electronic copy it says 23 or 22-23.
Yeah.
So
it should be 22-23. Let's see where it says, because it's for the balance of this year.
okay, yeah, just
Yeah, you're
okay.
correct.
So it's correct on the electronic copy
Correct.
and not correct on the paper copy. Okay.
Well, my paper copy says 22-23, so I'm not sure. But,
Oh, I'm sorry.
okay.
I'm sorry. I moved my paper up and I was looking at the one prior, so that was my bad.
Okay, no worries.
So, we have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board? Any questions or comments from staff or community? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Then we'll move on to item 7.4, approval to extend contract with the Wellness Project for virtual psychologist. Mr. Delbeck.
Yeah, this background information's the same, but according to state and federal laws, regulations, school districts are required to assess students that have been referred for special education services in all areas related to the suspected disability. Assessments must be administered by trained and knowledgeable personnel. A student must be assessed when first referred for a suspected disability, then considered for reassessment at least once every 3 years after qualifying for special education. When a consent for an assessment plan is signed by the parent or guardian, the guardian has 60 days in which to complete the assessment. And hold a meeting to discuss students' eligibility. The current needs of the district require 4 full-time psychologists. Same thing, we have been advertising on EdJoin. While there have been some applicants, we have not able to hire. So we're seeking to extend a contract with the Wellness Project, whose caseload would be overdue psychoeducation assessments from the 21-22 year, allowing other psychologists to concentrate on their current caseloads. The estimated cost is the school psychologist will be $115 per hour, a total of $920 per school day from May 1st to May 24th for a total of 4 weeks is not to exceed $16,560. This will come from the special education budget. It's recommended that the board approve to extend the contract with the Wellness Project for the services of a psychologist for the remainder of the 22-23 school year.
Recommend action.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board? Staff or community? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Move on to item 7.4, approval of Pathful Explorer Plus platform. Mr. Delbeck.
Yeah, background information, Pathful Explorer is a K-12 exploration and planning platform that prepares students for college and or career. With a combination of interactive tools, assessments, and real-world exploration, students can discover diverse career pathways and chart their individualized plan. Pathful Explorer provides actionable reports and insight in real time, customizable views, and exportable reports that update administrators on user engagement and effectiveness. Customizable links empower administrators to easily promote work-based learning and opportunities for the community, for the school district, and as well as prominently feature important online resources for students. Customizable lessons integrated over 20 activities into custom and flexible lessons and assign them to individual students, classes, entire grades, or the entire district. After completion of each unit and course, students will earn micro-credentials, which are credentials earned through performance-based assessments that showcase skills in specific areas. More universities are increasingly are accepting micro-credentials as part of the common application. It allows students to earn stackable skills that can be added to student resumes and job internship applications that will help differentiate themselves academically and professionally. Current consideration, Pathful Explorer provides a combination of interactive tools, assessments, and real-world exploration videos to empower students so they can explore diverse career paths. Pathful Explorer helps schools and districts support students with 1, students' career profiles and individual graduation plans, college and career research based on up-to-date data, workplace preparation, including resume and cover letter building, virtual job shadowing opportunities, internships, jobs, work-based learning searches, financial aid, scholarship searches, and e-transfer transcript credit. Platform will be available to all students attending Murray Middle School, James Monroe, and Burroughs High School. The annual cost for the district subscription for Pathful will be $10,776.50. It's recommended that the board approve the contract with Pathful Explorer as presented.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Move on to item 7.6, approval for a contract with Crisis Prevention Institute for Classroom Culture Certification Program. Mr. Delbeck.
Yeah, and I believe this background information. Classroom culture applies a common framework that provides teachers and staff with sustainable and practical standards for implementation. As staff use these consistently across the board, they become more effective in preventing and mitigating disruptive behaviors, all while fostering positive student-teacher relationships. Classroom culture fits effortlessly into the school's existing behavior management initiatives, providing 5 core principles that are both easy to adopt and implement. The district's current educational climate will be strengthened by the Crisis Prevention Institute proven behavior management techniques that are backed by 40-plus years as an industry leader in crisis intervention. Current consideration, classroom culture program provides participations with a unique certification. It gives certified instructors foundation, content, and activities to help educators reduce the presence of escalating behaviors in their classroom. The program has 2 parts. Part 1 is an online course, which covers the core contents of classroom culture. The online course is centered around 5 principles of classroom culture: 1, consistent calm behavior; 2, sustainable routines; 3, first attention to best conduct; 4, scripted interviews; 5, restorative approaches. Part 2 is a live virtual classroom day. During the virtual sessions, participants will experience the classroom modules delivered by a CPI global professional instructor. The program facilitates a deeper understanding of 5 principles of classroom culture and provides opportunity to discuss facilitation strategies of practicing and gain practice teaching modules and receive feedback from expert peers. After successful completion of the program, instructors are certified to train classroom culture. And just one more thing I want to add that we didn't know at the time, we have enough instructors, 8, that volunteered to do it, so we're actually going to have it in person, which is great as opposed to virtual, because I just feel it's so much more powerful for our instructors to have in person. We have some of our potential instructors here in the classroom as administrators and teachers, and it's great. It's going to be a good thing for our district, but it's more powerful in person, and we were just hoping that we can get it done, so it's good. Financial implications: the cost for the district for this program for the remainder of the 22 school year will be approximately $32,490. This will be paid out of SSUSD's Alternative Dispute Resolution Grant Award. It's recommended the board approve the contract with Crisis Prevention Institute as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Rockwell?
Yeah, so I'm going to sound like a broken record tonight. I'm going to ask this on a few different items probably, but first of all, it sounds great. That's not my concern, but how do we know that, you know, if we do this, how do we know we've been successful? How do we know, you know, that that we're better having done this than had we not?
So great question. This is a skill I happen to been teaching this a long time, and also, you know, it's one of those things you don't want to use, right? It's a reduction of use of putting hands on students, right? Because we want to verbally de-escalate them. So we have a class called CPI, and CPI is Crisis Prevention Institute. That's where it's 90% verbal de-escalation, but 10% it is escorting students to their seats. And there's a higher level of that. We don't choose to use that in Sierra Sands. What we want to do is get it across the board, from our office staff to everyone who wants to take it, that we have a culture of building positive relationships with the community. And the way that we'll judge that, you know, metric-wise, is number one, yes, the number of, you know, incidents that occur more than a verbal de-escalation skill. In other words, you could talk a student down, which is great. Hopefully you talk them down. And the last thing we want to do is put hands on student, right? But when we do, we have a behavior emergency report. So we get those information that we give to the California Department of Education, and we look for ways that we could reduce that. And one of those is having more and more people trained, so that a student is escalated, maybe we back up a little and we talk to them in a little different way, or we de-escalate them, because a lot of people are coming out without the skills, right? They go through school and they become teachers, and there's amazing classes, and they learn about teaching, and they don't learn about the kid who doesn't want to sit down, right? And so those are kind of the things and the conflicts that they go there. So we kind of look at that like a lot of, hopefully it breeds more teacher satisfaction, more teachers want to stay. That'd be one matrix, to say that, because the classrooms are safer, the classrooms are, and what do we want? We want 50 minutes of instruction, right? We don't want 10 minutes of having to take. So those are kind of the matrix that we look at. And we look at, you know, just a campus that is safe and quiet. You walk around, and so that's hopefully what we're trying to do, and that's what we look at. We have our local plan, and we also have our monitoring from CDE, so we look at how we could reduce those things. And this was one of the action items that we thought of, hey, universally, because if you walk into the office and there's a parent that's a little upset, right, that creates tension at a school, as opposed to those frontline people who are incredible, our people in the front office, say, hey, can you hold on a second and we'll get back to you, and we let the person de-escalate. So those are skills that we're trying to teach district-wide.
Any further questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Move on to 7.7, approval to purchase HP computer workstations for film production classes at Burroughs High School for 23-24. And I had Delbeck on there, but since he's gone, go blue. Yeah.
He can come present it if
You
he
know what,
wants
it's
to.
just the notes I have on here, so.
That's okay. Good evening, President, Vice President Scott, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Ostash, staff, and community. Career Technical Education is a program of study that involves a sequence of courses that integrates core academic knowledge with technical and occupational knowledge to provide students with a pathway to post-secondary education and careers. Burroughs currently offers 6 different CTE pathways. A new pathway, Production and Managerial Arts, is being offered in the 2023-24 school year, which consists of 2 courses, Film Production 1 and Film Production 2. The Career Technical Education Incentive Grant is a grant established as a state education, economic, and workforce development initiative to provide pupils in kindergarten through grade 12 with the knowledge and skills necessary to transition to employment and post-secondary education. California Education Code Section 53070A states the purpose of this program is to encourage, maintain, and strengthen the delivery of high-quality career technical education programs. In 22-23, Sierra Sands applied for and received a CTIC grant for $270,954. The Production and Managerial Arts pathway is in need of new equipment to set up the classroom. The HP workstations proposed would provide students with industry-appropriate technology in order to process and distribute materials produced in class. The computer workstations will serve as a home base for each student group. All video files produced by that group will be organized into their workstation's hard drive, processed for color and sound, and edited using DaVinci Resolve 18. DaVinci Resolve is a very RAM and video demanding program, so the specifications of these computers have been chosen within the minimum recommendations of the software's publisher. The cost of the 5 HP workstations is $10,267.19 and will be funded by CTIC. It is recommended that the Board of Education authorize the purchase of the workstations for Burroughs High School CTE Production and Managerial Arts Pathway as presented.
Move recommended action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Rockwell.
This just struck me when you stated it, but, and I don't know why I didn't hit earlier when I read through this, but why have we purchased these within the minimum recommendation of the software's publisher and not something maybe a little better than the minimum?
Because that's what the teacher requested. And she knows her pathway better than I do. So I get the recommendation from the teacher, and this is what she wants.
Okay.
You can ask her.
Any further questions from the board? Any questions from staff or community? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you. We'll move on to 7.8, approval of contract agreement with Power Schools Predictive Enrollment Analytics. Mr. White.
Good evening, Vice President Scott, members of the board, Dr. Ossas, staff, and community. The coordinator, student services, and cabinet have reviewed Power Schools Predictive Enrollment Analytics as a replacement for Cooperative Strategies LLC. While we previously worked from one-off paper-based reports, Power Schools allows for real-time analysis and paper-based reports to help support student enrollment, school zone planning, grant writing, staffing, community engagement strategies, digital network planning, attendance, finance reporting, amongst many other analysis needs. For current considerations, this tool allows real-time analysis for changing the school zone boundaries, provides a multitude of reports to inform the allocation of resources, supports the student enrollment process by identifying zone schools, and will enhance our address verification practices, projects enrollment, including new housing developments, and then the program can filter information by using student data from the Census Bureau data as well. So the financial implication of this agreement would be $16,785 for a one-year agreement, as well as a consultation fee of up to $2,250. This will be funded by Fund 25 developer fees. It is the superintendent's recommendation to approve the contract agreement with Power Schools for the use of predictive enrollment analytics and as presented.
Move recommended action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Rockwell?
Yeah, no, I just want to say I think this is a very timely purchase. I think we really do need to take a look at, where we are. We're jamming a whole bunch of schools in a very small piece of real estate, and, probably our zones are a little outdated based on that. And so it'd be nice to have some good analytic data to help us do that if we are going to make changes to do it right. So I think this is great.
Get some bike paths in there.
Well, I think
We have to talk to the city about that one.
Yeah.
I think we will be making some changes if you really, we have those, we have those apartments.
Oh, no, we have two conversations going on here.
Robert's got the mic.
Well, I was just saying that with the apartments coming up over there on Norma Street, I think there's over 200 units being developed, and
I don't know if those are relocations of people or if it's gonna be people coming from out of town, but that's gonna be a huge impact for us. So this is really good. I agree with Mr. Rockwell.
Mrs. Campbell?
No, that's, yeah, absolutely.
Back to
We're gonna have
bike
to figure something out.
Yep,
They're gonna be earning their money,
this will
apparently.
definitely help.
yeah.
Any further questions from the board, staff, or community? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. We'll move on to item 7.9, approval of contract agreement with Capturing Kids' Hearts.
The California School Dashboard is the reporting mechanism for California's accountability and continuous improvement system. Multiple metrics reported on the dashboard assist districts and schools in identifying strengths, challenges, and areas in need of improvement. The 2022 California School Dashboard for Sierra Sands Unified School District indicates the chronic absenteeism and suspension rates for all students in the very high status level, with a 29.9% chronic absenteeism rate and an 8.5% suspension rate. The district is responsible in efforts to improve dashboard metrics through supporting student engagement, positive school climate, and providing social, emotional, and behavioral professional development to staff. The Coordinator of Student Services has researched evidence-based social, emotional, and behavioral professional development opportunities and recommends the district enter into a contract with Capturing Kids' Hearts. The services provided through the proposed contract are in alignment with both student engagement and school climate indicators and the LCAP goal to maximize student engagement and achievement. The agreement includes leadership training and support, teacher training and implementation support, and ongoing coaching support and resources. Certificated staff and administration will engage in professional development on social, emotional well-being, relationship-driven campus culture, and student connectedness. District personnel will also receive coaching and accountability support to help ensure the implementation of leadership skill or learned skills. The contract agreement with Capturing Kids' Hearts is $326,400. The contract will be multi-funded through a one-time payment from ESSER funds, primarily ELO grant and ESSER 3 learning loss funds. Just to kind of capture a little bit more of this understanding and why this is important is it's in line with what our Teachers Association has been asking for some time. It's in line with the data we're getting back from the dashboard. It's also in line with the efforts and resources that we've been implementing over the years to ensure that we're providing access to social, emotional, mental health, and behavioral health services to our students and families. So it is the superintendent's recommendation to approve the contract agreement with Capturing Kids' Hearts as presented.
Move recommended action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Rockwell?
Yeah, so I guess, let me quit stuttering. So the main rationale for implementing this, $326,000 program is to help with our chronic absenteeism and suspension rates. That's the kind of number one. Obviously, there are other subsidiary benefits that would come along with it, which is great. Is that how we'll measure success of this program, is if those numbers come down? I mean, my guess is we're probably doing multiple things to try to help those items, and so I'm just trying to figure out, when we invest our money, how do we know we're getting a return on that investment? And so, is there an analytical plan to this as we go through to figure out that this is
Yeah,
We
you're
really did-
talking to
we
the
did a
data
really
geek.
good bang for the buck.
Yeah, you're talking to the data geek of the district. So yeah, there's an analytical plan for this. Yeah, we use the school dashboard to help identify our overall success or failure of an implementation of a plan. When we talk about evidence-based, we're talking about a system that, if done with the right parameters and with fidelity, it actually has a success rate every single time of at least 80+%, making it an evidence-based practice, which is incredible, right? So if we fail in something of that nature, that has been done throughout the nation and in other countries with success, as long as the plan has been done with fidelity, we will see a success rate. To what degree? That's to be determined. But that's one of the beauties of it. As well, we'll also be utilizing internal data to identify our rates of implementation and how successful we are with that, and that's built into the program as well. So basically, they have tiered fidelity inventory tools that help us identify whether or not we're implementing successfully into the standards of which they require.
Yeah, that's helpful, thank you. I think, one of the things that either I haven't clamped on with my brain for years, or we're not doing it, but if you are actually analyzing the data that indicates whether we are having success or failure with these various programs, it would be interesting to get, kind of an update, 6 months, 9 months, a year, whatever the appropriate timing is later, say, hey, we told you we're gonna do great stuff with this program, and let me tell you the data results for that program. So sort of reinforcing the fact that, yeah, we're doing good stuff. And if the data comes back bad, it'd be great to say, hey, this didn't work, so we're gonna do this, which we now think is probably the thing to do. But forgive me if I'm forgetful, and we've done a lot of that, but I don't think we do a lot of that. I think we invest in what we think are good programs, and I think staff goes off and does great things, and they probably get great results. I don't know that we hear about those great results that are tied to specific programs like this to really understand that we're, getting our bang for the buck. So anyway, just a kind of general comment, thanks.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Mrs. Campbell?
Yeah, and just in general, like, what does this program look like? Like, what are the kids, what are they gonna do? What's the staff gonna do? Like, what does this program look like?
So, in short, the intent is to help train staff on how to engage current day students, right? As what was pointed out, and we've seen with our disciplinary records and stuff, even though we uphold the letter of the law, right? It doesn't mean that we're making a great first contact with students, or that we're meeting students where they're at. And as prior educators and the educators here, there's a science behind education, but just like bachelor's and master's of arts, there is an art behind it. And so this will help reinforce those other skills and strategies used by educators over the years that have been really successful in making a strong connection with students, which we know is the source of being willing to learn from somebody, right, is making that strong connection.
Yeah, well, so like educators, they have their bag of tricks, and some of them are telltale, and they do their job, and they're used forever. So I'm just wondering, what types of tricks do you think they might have? Like
A lot of it has to comes down to communication skills, right? So how I present with my nonverbal communication and verbal communication, and understanding cultural differences, and accepting of cultural differences, and working in and around those. So again, it's kind of hard for me to oversimplify it, because it's an entire training, an entire practice. But yeah, I'd be more than happy to send you guys material and stuff through email or hard copies later.
Yeah.
I'll chime in just for a second. First of all, Mr. White, thank you. I think you do an outstanding job of describing the overarching goals. And I agree that in this venue, we really wouldn't be well equipped to give you the details of it. But I will say this. There are some in the room who will remember this, but I remember there was some excellent work some years ago, perhaps 12, 15 years ago at Pierce Elementary School. At that time, we don't do this anymore, but we had essentially, it was kind of a magnet for our EL students. And we do a different practice now where we push them throughout, you know, the elementary schools. But at that time, Mrs. Barnes and staff really embraced like a book study and a socioeconomic study. At that time, they used, I believe, Ruby Payne, and the book really basically described for a middle-class faculty and staff some of the more granular elements of how students who are born into or are living in elements or levels of poverty, how there are substantial differences in sort of a cultural code and resources. You know, and so that's just an example of some previous work that we've done in the district that had some really outstanding results. There are other examples as well, but capturing kids' hearts is sort of a universal or a unifying set of strategies that help decode the current students' sort of cultural, the morphing that's going on in society. And we have a lot of really effective strategies in our district right now that are a little bit more level specific, you know, that might be in the elementary school versus what we use in the middle school, what we use in the high school. One of the things Mr. Wyeth and I and some other colleagues have discussed is that capturing kids' hearts would provide a different opportunity where it's a unifying set of strategies for all of our faculty and staff from TK through 12. And we don't really currently have something that ties us in that unifying of a manner. So there are just some additional comments. I think Mr. Wyeth did a much better job than I did, but we'll be very happy in a different setting, perhaps in a workshop setting, to kind of dive in and give you a lot more information, pending your approval. If you so do so, that we'd be very happy to share, you know, some more of the details. And perhaps you might find some opportunity to join us in some of the training. We'll utilize those PD days, and we can certainly arrange for board members to be a part of that training. That would be kind of an optimal integration of those strategies.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Mr. Wyeth, you mentioned 29% absenteeism rate. Can you define, like, is that the 29% of our student population is chronically absent, or how does that work? Give me a...
Yeah, so we measure ADA, average daily attendance, and we're typically a district, and historically was 94, 95%, which is incredible. Recently, we're in the low 90s, still incredible compared to the state. But when we're talking about chronic absenteeism, that means, yes, there's 29% of the population that triggers chronic absenteeism rates, which is above 10% or 10% and above of their school years missed. If they attend a full year of school, that's 180 days. That means these students have missed 18 plus days of school or the equivalents thereof. It's a lot, yeah.
That's a lot. Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. We'll move on to item 7.10, approval of contract with Keenan and Associates to conduct remote employee training, including compliance training. Mr. Old.
The Human Resources Department is responsible for facilitating annual compliance training, which includes mandated child abuse training, sexual harassment training, et cetera, for all district employees. Historically, these training courses have been conducted in a group setting. During the pandemic, the training could not be implemented in a group setting due to COVID-19 health guidance. Therefore, the district contracted with an outside vendor to provide a digital platform to provide the training. An outcome of being forced to provide the training virtually is that it was discovered that allowing employees to access the mandated training at a time convenient to them and from any location proved to be a more efficient model than the traditional process. Keenan and Associates is an industry leader in providing compliance training for school employees. Additionally, they provide an intensive catalog of additional job-specific training that the district would also have access to provide more targeted training for district employees. Keenan and Associates will provide access to their digital platform, which will be used to maintain evidence that each employee has fulfilled their mandated training obligation for the school year. The The cost of the one-year district subscription is $12,500. The cost includes all setup, training, and access to the entire catalog of training modules within the Keenan Video Library. The program will be paid out of the general fund. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve a one-year contract with Keenan and Associates to conduct remote employee training, including compliance training.
Move recommended action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Move on to item 8, policy development and review.
Move 8.1 through 8.8.
We have a motion to move 8.1 and 8.8 through 8.8. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second for 8.1 through 8.8. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community on 8.1 through 8.8?
I think what we should do is make sure it's clear to everybody up here, but when we do that, if there's any one of those that you have something you have a question about or something you want to make a comment on, you know, either you can do that when we go to approve the block of these, or you can ask that get pulled out and stand on its own if there's another one, if there's something you want to look at. So I just thought they were all relatively straightforward and.
Yes, they are. These are, yeah.
I don't think he was arguing with you.
No, just wanted to make sure.
Last time it was, last time, but these are good. These are fine.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. No questions or comments? All in favor, 8.1 through 8.8, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Unanimous? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Move on to item 9, personnel administration.
Move 9.1, 9.2.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, 9.1, 9.2. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. 9.3, approval of memorandum of understanding with the Desert Area Guidance Association titled Salary Placement for School Psychologists. Mr. Auld.
There's a widely recognized staffing shortage in public education. The shortage is especially felt in certain specialized areas such as school psychology. There are federal and state requirements that are fulfilled by the duties of a school psychologist. The needs among our general and special education student population indicate a need for 4 full-time equivalent school psychologists. This current school year proved to be especially challenging in the area of employing in-person school psychologists. While we remain in compliance through the use of consultant contracts, we currently do not employ any in-district school psychologists. While we greatly appreciate the valuable service of our contracted school psychologists, we still prefer to employ our own in-district psychologists. When conducting a comparable analysis, we have determined for the very specialized area of school psychologists that it would be appropriate to enter into a memorandum of understanding with the Desert Area Guidance Association in order to position the district for increased likelihood of recruiting district school psychologists. There are no increased costs to implement the MOU, and it is the superintendent's recommendation the board approve the memorandum of understanding with DAGA titled Salary Placement for School Psychologists.
Move recommended action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Rockwell.
You're not saying that as nicely as you did earlier this evening. So obviously the market for many of the positions that we're trying to fill, we're having a hard time filling, is a big part of it is just we don't pay enough for some of these positions because the market has just gone crazy. Do we have a sense of the strategy we're employing in this MOU? How that does that get us in the hunt, really, or is it just we're trying the best we can and hope that things happen?
I think it gets us in the general target area. There are districts that are doing things that they call creative, that others call possibly not appropriate. In recruiting, I set up our booth and I talked to the people on the left and the right of me. was next to a school district, and they were giving signing bonuses, and one of the positions listed for a signing bonus was not school psychologist. So I was curious, you don't have any problems hiring school psychologists? They said, no. We'll have 10 applications per one vacancy. And I said, do they have a different salary schedule? They pay their school psychologist as leadership, management team. And so as I looked and went and looked at their salary schedule and I looked at what they're paying their school psychologists, it is considerably more than what any other district around them is paying. So that to me is an indication of how much the shortage is impacting all of us. That was an urban area where they have a much higher density population. So we do have, as Mr. Delbick said, we've had some applications, we've had some interest, we've had some people who we thought we were going to be able to onboard who were committed to another district because it paid better. In this case, we're not paying more, we're just paying a higher salary sooner. We're just moving them up the columns sooner, just to have a shot at attracting and competing with other school districts.
Yeah, that kind of was my question, was what, do we really think this is going to help? You know, we hope it will, but yeah, and I guess, you know, there are numerous positions that kind of look a lot like this across the board, and I hope we find more new kind of targeted strategies like this to try to help.
Yeah, I think Mr. Delbick, though, made a good point. There are lots of positions that are specialized that are difficult to find. School psychologists, however, are in a position of once there is a decision that a student must be assessed, it immediately starts the 60-day timeline. If you don't have people in place to do those assessments, you can get out of compliance very, very quickly. So it's, districts are becoming very creative and having to become creative, and this is our effort towards that end.
Okay, thanks.
Any further questions from board, staff, or community? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Move on to item 9.4, revision of job description for a classified position, lead custodian. Mr. Old.
During the summer, the Director of Maintenance takes on the added responsibility of overseeing the custodians at each of our sites, all 10 sites. There are many deferred maintenance projects that demand additional time for implementation. Due to the additional demand, management intends to provide a lead custodian during summer in order to provide appropriate levels of oversight and support to our team of custodians. Summer is one of the busiest times for maintenance and operations, as well as custodial staff, with summer work orders and additional projects that are tasked to be completed. The district has determined that adding a temporary summer lead custodian position, which will oversee and provide support to site custodians, will remove this added assignment from the Director of Maintenance. The attached job description reflects the current skills and experience needed for this temporary summer position. The district and CSEA and its Ridgecrest Chapter 188 have agreed to this temporary 8-week position as well. It will be advertised within the district, and a site custodian who is eligible for the position will go back into their regular, or who holds the position will go back into their regular custodial position once the assignment is complete. Financial implication, the position will be paid at the head custodian 2 pay rate on the classified salary schedule. Since this is a temporary summer assignment, no benefits are associated with the position. Either a district vehicle will be provided or mileage will be paid for the use of a personal vehicle, since they will need to travel to each of the sites. It is the superintendent's recommendation the board approve the revisions to the temporary summer classified position entitled lead custodian.
Move to approve recommended action. Turn that on.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Move on to 9.5, declaration of need for fully qualified teachers for 23-24 school year. Mr. Old.
Move 9.5.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That is unanimous. Move on to item 9.6, approval of memorandum of understanding with the California School Employees Association and its Ridgecrest Chapter 188 titled Summer Learning Differential Pay. Mr. Old.
The Sierra Sands Unified School District ELO grant apportionment is $3,537,000. Of that amount, $200,000 is left until it expires on September 3rd, 2023. All expenditures, including reimbursements, must be linked to an allowable use. The district will provide supplemental instructional and support to identified students in 5 identified strategies. The first strategy is to extend instructional learning time in a number of different ways, including providing summer learning programs beyond what has been offered in the past. Specifically, the strategy provides summer programs for students K-8 in addition to what has traditionally been offered to our 9-12 students. In order for the district to expand our traditional learning opportunities so significantly, it is imperative that we recruit and hire a large number of support staff. Current local employment conditions make recruiting and hiring highly qualified staff difficult. Therefore, the district intends to incentivize employees by paying all classified employees who are hired to directly support the summer learning programs an additional $5 per hour. Since employees will receive the $5 per hour differential pay in addition to the regular rate, and because we don't know which employees will work to support the summer learning programs, the financial implications are unknown. The Extended Learning Opportunities Grant will be the funding source, and it is the superintendent's recommendation the board approve the memorandum of understanding with CSEA and its Chapter 188 titled Summer Learning Differential Pay as presented.
Move to approve recommended action.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Old. We'll move on to item 11, construction administration. 11.1, report to the board, construction activities and issues. Mr. Coit.
Vice President Scott, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Ostash, staff, and community, I'm pleased to give this update on the status of the district's new Richmond School construction activities. This report is presented for informational purposes only and no action is required. Construction activity is continuing at the new Richmond School. The modular building pads have been certified and site utility installation has begun. Building B under slab electrical and plumbing will be inspected tomorrow, and Building A under slab utilities are scheduled to be installed next week. Several site work bids were opened today. Most of the bids were within budget. All the bids are being vetted. Several site work contracts will be ready to be presented for approval at the June board meeting.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to 11.2, approval of change orders to the Milos Modular Building, Inc., contract for the DOD OLDCC Richmond Elementary School Replacement Project. Mr. Coit.
In February 2019, the district was invited by the Department of Defense Office of Local Defense Community Cooperation to submit a proposal for grant funding for modernization or replacement of Richmond Elementary School. On March 10, 2022, the board approved an agreement with Milos Modular Buildings, Inc. for the permanent modular portion of the project. Under public contracting rules, the district could not award the contract to Milos until the design was approved by the Division of State Architecture. On March 14, 2022, the district issued Milos a notice of intent to award and authorization to proceed with design. Although the district did not have a formal contract with Milos, it was agreed that Milos would document potential changes to the contract until award, and at that time submit change orders for approval. In November 2022, the district was awarded the grant from OLDCC. On April 13, 2023, DSA approved the design of permanent modular buildings and a contract was signed with Milos. They submitted the project change orders to the district. The following contract change orders have been proposed by Milos and agreed to technically by the construction manager. So number one is we've paid the design cost already, so that has a value of $358,000 and that's already been paid. 2 is value engineering. Several items were removed from the scope of the MELA's contract, and that's a deductive change order for the value of $5,247,075. Design changes were 3 items were identified to be added to the scope of work. That was a value of $1,407,886. 4 was between August and September, the district paused the project to assess an alternative strategy that would have combined the Richmond project with the proposed Pierce replacement project. Ultimately, it was decided to restart the project for Richmond as planned. However, as a result, there were increases to the material costs, and MELAS was forced to rebid several subcontracts that increased prices. In addition, the DoD incorporated the requirements of Build America, Buy America Act into the federal grants, resulting in additional increase of costs. The increase for that amount was $1,053,515.59. We had 2 other change orders. One was the addition of fire sprinklers. There was an add of $36,410, and door contact switches for $20,286. Net result is we still have a deductive change order of $3,086,976.02. This project will be funded by the OLDCC grant at 80% and 40% capital expenditures. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve the change orders by MELAS Modulars, Inc. for the contract to the DoD OLDCC Richmond Elementary School project as presented.
Move recommended action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Rockwell.
So across these items of the design, we are $3 million to the good. We're better off than we had anticipated we'd be through these items.
At this point, the contract value is decreased by that amount.
Yes, for this second, because things will go the other way next week, I'm sure, but.
Of course.
Okay, great.
Any further questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Move on to item 11.3, approval of an agreement with Lakeshore for furniture and supplies for transitional kindergarten classrooms at Fowler and Lost Floors. Mr. Coit.
California's budget trailer bill for the 2021-22 fiscal year, Assembly Bill 130, requires that local districts must increasingly provide a transitional kindergarten program for 4-year-olds, expanding eligibility in 2 and then 3-month increments starting in 22-23, and by 25-26, all 4-year-olds would be eligible for TK. District staff has determined that it will be necessary to add additional TK classrooms at Los Flores and Fowler to meet the projected TK enrollment for the 23-24 school year. The board approved the purchase of 2 relocatable classrooms for this purpose on April 20th of 2023. It will be necessary to furnish and provide basic classroom materials for the 2 relocatable classrooms. The district has received approximately $143,000 in universal pre-kindergarten planning and implementation grant funding to facilitate the implementation of the program, and it's confirmed that classroom furniture and supplies are an allowable use of this funding. The cost for the classroom furniture and supplies is $17,872.94. Funding will be from UPK Planning and Implementation Grant Funding. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve an agreement with Lakeshore for furniture and supplies for transitional kindergarten classrooms at Fowler and Los Flores as presented.
Approve for recommended action.
Second.
We have a motion in 2 seconds. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community?
Just a quick one. So we determined that we needed additional classrooms at these two schools. We probably did some calculations with slide rules and abacus and stuff like that, and Mr. Wythe's new software would allow us to just go bang, 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 and then we'd know really fast that, hey, we need these two here, or maybe we needed them over there, or whatever, but, so, it'll be, this will be good. Thanks.
And one more point. I've had a few parents and teachers, and Lost Floors has issues or possible issues with the parking for staff, because there's not a lot of staff parking. So with more staff and more kids, and I don't know, it might be advantageous to a safety thing with the parking. I don't know, Bill, float them in the air, I don't know, but
We are working on that.
Okay.
Mr. Coit and Mr. Herbert, Ms. Smith, and I, and actually Travis Reed with the city of Ridgecrest, we all met and powwowed over at Lost Forest, and we're looking at a couple of different options that could could add parking spaces. It is an issue. You know, all of our schools, well, Murray is not included in this comment, but most of our schools were built at a time when students walked and rode their bicycles to school, and so their traffic patterns are really challenging.
Yeah.
The parking is challenging. We've taken some of the parking to to be compliant with some of our bus drop-offs. So, anyways, long story short, we are looking at possibly converting one of the drop-off zones, because we actually don't use large buses at Lost Forest currently. So we're looking to maybe convert that into some staff parking.
Yeah.
There's also some staff parking possibilities at either end of the campus. There's plenty of space. The issue is we have to be judicious about cost. Because anytime historically, if you go back several decades, there were various levels of lower level projects you basically could do, and it wouldn't be tremendously expensive. But Division of State Architect, DSA rules, engineering, even small projects become $500,000 or $1 million, because you have to look at all of the enhanced laws that go into like path of travel, ADA compliance, all kinds of things that Mr. Coit could rattle off that I'm just kind of remembering from memory of that conversation. So great comment. It's a legitimate issue, and we're collaborating with the city and district staff to figure out the most cost-effective solution that would be suitable. So more information to come on that.
yeah, it was just a thought, because more kids, more cars, which is good.
Any further questions or comments from staff, community, or the board? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. We'll move on to 11.1. Approve an agreement with Erie Pacific Supply for BARD units for Pierce, Fowler, Los Flores, and Unicorn schools. Mr. Coit.
In April 2021, the district issued a request for qualifications, RFQ, for HVAC replacements at Pierce, Fowler, Los Flores, and Unicorn schools. In that document, BARD units were specified as the preferred model for wall mount units. On November 18, 2021, the board approved an agreement with West Coast Air Inc. for the design and pre-construction services for the project. During the design phase, it was recommended that Marvair units be purchased instead of BARD units due to the cost differences and the lead time necessary to obtain the BARD units. On January 20th, 2022, the board approved an agreement with West Coast to complete the project for the guaranteed maximum price proposed. The Marvair units were installed at Fowler and Pierce during the summer of 2022. The Marvair units have proven to be unreliable despite several attempts by both West Coast Air and Marvair to resolve the issues. The district and West Coast have agreed that Marvair units should be replaced with BARD units because the units have a 29 to 31 week lead time for delivery. West Coast Air has agreed to deploy resources to perform the replacement at Pierce and Fowler and the installation at Los Flores and Unicorn once the units are delivered at no additional cost. West Coast Air is working with Marvair to return the uninstalled units for a refund and negotiating terms for the return of units that have been installed. So the total cost for all school sites for the barred units are $363,403.08. Funding will come from Fund 40. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve an agreement with Jerry Pacific Supply for barred units for Pierce, Fowler, Los Flores, and Inyakern as presented.
Recommend approve, recommend action.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion? And a second. We have a second? Okay, I didn't hear a second. Sorry about that. Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Rockwell?
So I'm puzzled. So we were gonna use barred units. Somebody convinced us that the barred units were not good. They had a long lead time. Were they concerned about the quality as well?
No, I think the recommendation came because of the long lead time and the fact that this was during the crunch from COVID and costs were escalating tremendously. Marvair said they would hold their price, and in 1 month we had a 16% upcharge from BARD, and they weren't willing to hold prices more than a week at a time. We had several Marvair units. In fact, we took some out that were 30 years old that were functioning well for their age, and we were having over a 50% failure rate with the newly installed Marvair units, and it's just poor workmanship, and I think it's a new model run they're not that familiar with, but it's just very poor workmanship in these units.
So we never were concerned about the quality of the barred units.
No.
It was always just lead time and cost.
It was lead time and cost.
And we've decided after the experience with trying a different approach that the lead time and costs are okay. I mean, are worth dealing with, I guess, is maybe a better way to put it.
We have so many hours trying to make these things run. I think Mr. Ault could speak to this one about complaints at work and at home probably from what, it's just been horrible. I've never seen new air conditioners like this. In fact, I made a trip to Sacramento and spoke my piece in a trade show with the gentleman from Marvair. And, you know, we just are not getting the results. When they send their technicians out, they're really not making permanent repairs. So it's very frustrating for maintenance and for myself.
If I may just hop in just for a second, I just want to compliment the staff. This has been a painstaking process. We actually preferred BARD from the outset. Yeah. We really wanted BARD, but it was a reasonable decision to make at the time that Marvair that it was a reasonable alternative. You know, we were always looking to contain costs. We had really relatively good success with some really old Marvair units, and it was a good alternative. We had no way of anticipating that, like Mr. Coy's describing, that the manufacturing quality of these new Marvair units, we had no way of anticipating that it would be of such poor quality. And we've really, hours of our own staff time trying to figure out, well, what do we do? But at the end of the day, we really don't have a choice. We have to do what we're doing because the air quality, not just the clean air quality from the filtration, but I mean the cooling and the heating is critical to the instructional process. I mean, it's just foundational. And so this is just one of those situations where it's really frustrating, and we probably even have got bordered on anger, because, but I also appreciate, because initially we weren't feeling like the contractor was going to be able to respond because of their own fiduciary, situation, but through some serious advocacy, Pam and Randy and staff have just been really assertive, and we're fortunate, I think, to be in the spot that we are, where West Coast is not going to charge us for the labor to change it out, and we're going to be able to restock those Marbury units, which initially we were told we weren't going to be able to do. But I don't know. I just can't emphasize enough how painstaking this process has been. But what we decided to do is what we have to do, because this implementation of these units will carry us the next 25 plus or minus years, and we got to get it right.
And BARD has not made any design changes of late that are going to make it go down the same path as the others?
You know, there's new efficiency standards and air quality standards that all the manufacturers have dealt with, although the new Lennox units that we installed on this project have had zero problems. And so we've had a long relationship with Lennox and BARD, so it's a bit of an assumption that BARD has kept their quality up, and maybe that's why their lead time was a little bit longer.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or comments from board, staff, or community? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Move on to 11.5, approval of an agreement with Colombo Construction Company for construction management of the electric bus yard project. Mr. Coy?
In April 2020, the Director of Transportation initiated a proposal to convert 15 home-to-school transportation diesel buses to electric over the next 10 years. Justification for this included the probable lack of grant funding for diesel buses over the next several years, and increasing reliability issues associated with the diesel bus fleet due to the increasing emission standards. On April 26, 2021, the board conducted a construction workshop to review a proposed plan and estimated costs associated with the procurement of 15 electric buses associated with the charging infrastructure over the next 8 years. On July 20, 2021, the board approved an agreement with Colombo Construction Company, Inc. for small construction projects on the condition that specific projects and the associated cost estimates be brought to the board for approval. The district requested a proposal from Colombo Construction Management Services associated with the construction of the electric bus yard. The proposed cost for the services will be $67,302 for CM fees, and estimate of reimbursables is $90,000. This will be funded by Fund 40 capital outlay. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve an agreement with Colombo Construction Company, Inc. for the construction management of the electric bus yard project as presented.
Move 11.5 and 11.6.
Second.
We have a motion for 11.5 and 11.6, approval of the agreement with Colombo Construction for management of the Fowler Preschool Playground as well. Do we have any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. We'll move on to business administration. 12.1, acceptance of 21-22 audit report for Sierra Sands Unified School District. Ms. McGuire.
Good evening, Vice President Scott, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Ostash, staff, and community. I'd like to bring to your attention two things. This is the 21-22 fiscal year audit, not the current year. And I left some information in from my 2021 audit on the header. It's the second paragraph under summary of findings. That was me recycling my words. So that qualified opinion does not count for the 21-22 audit. According to Education Codes 35145 and 41020, the district must conduct an annual audit and report of the findings of the Sierra Sands Unified School District audit to the board. The 2021-22 audit report has been prepared by the auditing firm of Eide Bailey, LLP, and has been provided for review. Sierra Sands received an unmodified opinion in the financial statements and federal awards program areas. An unmodified opinion indicates the district's fiscal procedures and controls were implemented appropriately and in accordance with the California Education Code and other appropriate regulations. There were no material weaknesses or significant internal control deficiencies identified in relation to the federal awards program. There were no material weaknesses or significant internal control deficiencies identified in relation to the state compliance program area. A material weakness was identified in relation to the financial statements regarding internal control. During the audit, the district's prior year governmental activities net position and a fund balance of the general fund have been restated as of July 1, 2021 to correct an error reported in the prior year's financial statements. The area was related to an overstatement of accounts receivable. The change in fund balance of the general fund and change in net position on the statement of activities would have decreased by $1,573,628 for the year ended June 30th, 2021, had the amount been reported appropriately in the prior year. The general fund balance has increased by $10,899,278 over the past 2 years. The fiscal year 2022-23 budget projects a decrease of $2,675,148, or 17.1%. For a district of this size, the state recommends the available reserves of at least 3% of the general fund expenditures and other uses in total outgo. The district has incurred operating deficits in 2 of the past 3 years and anticipates incurring an operating deficit during the 22-23 fiscal year. Total long-term liabilities have decreased by $35,644,057 over the past 2 years. Average daily attendance has decreased by 330 over the past 2 years. An increase of 217 average daily attendance is anticipated during the 22-23 fiscal year. There are no financial implications. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the 2021-22 audit report for the Sierra Sands Unified School District be accepted as presented.
Move recommended action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Rockwell.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions on a couple of different areas here. So there was a indication of an error to the tune of $1.5 million. Nothing about really, well, I might have missed it in the audit report, but not much about kind of what caused the error. Therefore, how do we make sure that we don't repeat the error in the future?
So in note 15 in the audit report on page 64, it discusses the changes to the net position as relates to the GASB 87, and that is regarding the lease of things and places and whether or not they are considered our assets or not, because we have the right to use. So it is described in the audit report. It is being resolved by the purchase of that debt book contract that I brought a couple of months ago that will also help us with the GASB 96. And that debt book will also support us with our debt service payments. It will also support us with several other areas that will help us remain compliant.
Okay, great, thank you. And then the other is, you mentioned there was some stuff in the header from last year regarding the UPP numbers, but there were some findings in the audit report around UPP again this year.
So the audit report restates the prior year audit findings and whether or not they had been cleared. And so when you see a finding that says 2022-001, that's the current year audit finding. When you see one that says 2021-001 or -002, that's the prior year audit finding. Both have been cleared. For 2021-22 school year, we had no issues with our unduplicated pupil count, and we anticipate having no issues with that in the current year.
Okay, I'm puzzled.
The auditor has to make sure that we have complied with the prior year finding. And if we haven't, they will bring it forward as a continued finding in that area. And they did not bring those forward.
Bear with me for just a second.
Mhm.
Okay, so you're saying if it's noted as 2021-001, it's for the
Correct.
2020, 2021
Right.
year?
Yes.
And 2021-002, same thing?
Correct.
Okay, great. I feel better, thank you.
Mhm.
Any further questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you, Mrs. McGuire.
I'll be
Move on
back.
to 12.2, approve an agreement with Speedway Ford for the purchase of a box truck for the Child Nutrition Service Department and Warehouse. Ms. Smith.
So Dave already mentioned that the district received a $500,000 grant for kitchen infrastructure, training, and kit funds. And the first thing that Ms. LeBlanc did was verify that vehicles were a legitimate purchase under that grant. We have been trying to get a replacement for the box truck for 2 to 3 years now. Enterprise has not been able to find one, and we were not in a position to buy one. And so the district would like to use those kit funds to buy a new box truck. We received a quote from Speedway Ford for that truck, and we have contacted several dealers and have not been able to find an additional quote for the truck that we're specifically looking for. The cost for the new truck will be $98,723, and the funding would come from the KIT grant funds. It's the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve an agreement with Speedway Ford for the purchase of a box truck for the Child Nutrition Services and Warehouse as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? Mr. Campbell?
Nope.
Nope. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Unanimous. Move on to 12.3, approval to enter in a supplemental contract with Centigix for James Monroe Middle School site, base school safety equipment, and incident alert systems, solutions. Second. We have a motion and a second for 12.3. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community?
My only comment was, the reason I moved it so quickly was that this is just an add to one we did last time. We neglected James Monroe, and this is adding James Monroe into the mix with all the other campuses.
Sounds good to me, Mr. Rockwell.
Any further questions, comments from the board, staff, or community? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. We'll move on to 12.4, approval to purchase upgraded voice over IP servers and support. Mr. Morrison.
Good evening, Vice President Scott, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Ostash, staff and community. In 2008, Sierra Sands implemented a voice over IP telephony system district-wide. The implementation has saved the district a considerable amount of money over the years and has proven to be a reliable and effective solution that not only allows for phone communication services, but has also provided a wide range of safety and security features that we use on a daily basis throughout the district. The current equipment has reached its end of life and needs to be replaced in order to continue providing a reliable and robust voice over IP telephony infrastructure throughout the district. The cost to purchase upgraded voice over IP servers and equipment is $153,898.16, and the cost to purchase 5 years of maintenance and support is $164,880. It is the superintendent's recommendation to approve the purchase of voice over IP servers and support in the amount of $318,778.16 from AMS.net as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board?
So your current infrastructure is 15 years old?
No, sir. That's when we started with the voice over IP. We have upgraded the servers since then, but I think it's been since 2016, 2015 when we upgraded them last.
Yeah, okay, good, thank you.
And I will note that, that where it's permissible, we're looking to use as much of the one-time funds that have come from the federal and the state as a result of pandemic to offset, wherever we can, offset those costs from the general fund.
Any further questions or comments from board, staff, or community? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It's unanimous. Move on to 12.5, approval of annual subscription agreement with Trabone Security for Sophos endpoint protection with MDR. Mr. Morrison.
At the start of the 22-23 school year, the Technology Department established 3 primary strategic goals for the department. One of those strategic goals was to improve the district's overall security posture, use proven technologies, industry standards, and best practices. The Sophos endpoint protection with managed detection and response solution helps organizations improve their overall security posture by combining industry-leading software solutions with a dedicated team of cybersecurity experts that monitor, detect, and remove any identified cybersecurity threats in real time. Cybersecurity incidents are increasing year after year in the educational sector, and a multi-layered approach is essential to keeping the district's resources safe and secure. While Sophos endpoint protection provides effective security tools on the computer itself, the MDR component adds an additional layer of security by aggregating your logs from various sources to provide a holistic view of everything transpiring on the network in real time. In the event that a cybersecurity event is detected, the Sophos MDR team will notify SSUSD technology personnel of the situation and take immediate action to remediate this situation before it can compromise the entire network. The annual subscription for Sophos will expire July 1, 2023, and the annual, the annual renewal cost with MDR included will be $131,022.58. It is the superintendent's recommendation that the board approve the annual subscription agreement with Trabone Security for Sophos endpoint protection with MDR in the amount of $131,022.58.
Move recommended action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board? Mr. Ruckel.
Yeah, so I think last time when we approved the bulk of the Syntegix stuff, we lamented the fact that it was a sad state of affairs that our society had gotten to the point where we really even needed to spend the money to do that.
Right.
This is the software side of
Kind of the other side of it.
the protection for our students and our staff. Again, it's a shame we have to spend the money on these, but this is a renewal. So how long have we had it prior to this year?
So we haven't had the MDR component prior to this year. We've had Sophos endpoint security, and we've been running that for quite a few years, and it has served us really well. The MDR is an added component, which is why it's being brought here with that increase.
So the endpoint protection is essentially software,
Correct.
and the MDR is staffing to
Correct.
help us recover if we have a problem.
Yes, sir.
So we seen activity that would have triggered the use of MDR in the past?
Well, we've been kind of piloting the MDR component, a little bit of a stripped down version of it for about 2 months now. And we have had 2 or 3 detections, incidences that triggered. They ended up being somewhat benign, but they were incidences that were triggered with the MDR component that we wouldn't have necessarily seen with just the endpoint security before. So we've kind of seen it in action. And of course, we hope we never have to see it in real action, but we feel confident that this is a solution that will help protect the district if we get a full-blown ransomware attack.
Don't want LA Unified like what they had happen.
Donnie, I made a phone call the other day to the San Bernardino Sheriff's Office. I needed some information on a background investigation I was working on. And they couldn't give me the information because they had been hacked. SBSO paid them $1 million to get their security key. Now, I'm not a computer person, so get their security keys back.
Yeah.
So they can start fixing it.
Yeah.
And the deputy I spoke to said they're gonna be down another couple months because they're taking it so slow to get things back in order and stuff. But, it just shows that it's all around us.
It's all around us. We keep hearing, it seems like every week we hear of another district that got hit. And so we're just doing everything we can to make sure that we're as protected and hopefully make us a harder target than the next guy, as sad as that sounds.
Yep. Any further questions or comments from the board, staff, or community? We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Move on to item 13. We'll temporarily adjourn the meeting to conduct the Indian Schools Financing Authority Board of Directors meeting. Adoption of the agenda. Any changes? Item 2, approval of minutes of the regular meeting of April 20th, 2023. Any changes on that? Minutes stand. Item 3, business administration. Item 3.1, acceptance of the 21-22 audit report for the Indian Schools Financing Authority.
Move recommended action.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments from the board, staff, or community?
I would just, is there anything significant that you were hoping to share?
No.
It's all good.
You look disappointed.
Yeah.
No. My watch is telling me it's past my bedtime.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any
opposed?
Any opposed? Lost my train of thought there. Be unanimous. We'll move on to item 4, adjournment, and we'll reopen the regular meeting, move into item 14, the consent calendar.
Move entire consent calendar.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second for the entire consent calendar. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Item 15, future agenda. Any future agenda items?
Not at this time.
Sure. Okay. Item 16, adjournment. The next regular meeting and the final board meeting for Dr. Dave Ostash will be on June 15th, 2023. Make sure you show up.
Thank you for being here, everyone.
Yes, thank you. Sorry it was a late night.
Stick it out.